electoral benefit for the Chancellor. It's not just out of the goodness of his heart. If he can make this northern powerhouse work, then who knows? The electoral powerhouse in the north of England, which is still the Labour Party, might also be diminished in a way that he desires.
And on the subject of power and gaining power and being a powerhouse, we say goodbye to you, Joey, but I want to say hello, good morning to Tim Farron, who's a former president of the Lib Dems. And Mr. Farron has thrown his hat into the ring today to be the new leader of the Liberal Democrats. And to do that, you're up against Norman Lamb, we know at the moment. How do you intend to put the lamb to the slaughter?
Well, I certainly don't. Norman's a great bloke, was a good minister, but I'm putting my name forward today because over the last few days, since the frankly devastating results we had in the early hours of Friday morning, I've been listening to hundreds of members who've been urging me to stand, and so I'm going to, because if they're up for the fight back, then I am up for making sure that we lead that. And the Liberal voice that Britain needs, well, it's blindingly obvious over the last 6 days since the Conservatives have gained power alone. It plans to get rid of the Human Rights Act, bring in the Snoopers Charter, 12 billion out of welfare cuts. Yesterday's ludicrous announcements over extremism orders makes us realise that there's never been more space for a Liberal Party, but we have no automatic right to survive or to thrive.
There's never been a worse time to say such things because, you know, has the message not got through? That's not what people want. That's why they voted the Tories back.
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, first of all, it's important not to be ungracious. An election happened. We got very soundly beaten. You have to accept that, and you have to congratulate the winners. But I'm bound to observe that the election we just had was one won by the politics of fear. Of course it was. I mean, you saw in Scotland people voting out of fear of Westminster, English politics, and the south of England, motivated by the Conservatives, a fear of Scotland and the SNP.
Okay,
what I'm saying, Eamon, is that we can have a politics which is unified.
Yes.
And which is diverse and which is not about fear, but about hope and togetherness.
But things have to change. That was then, this is now. And is it true that you want to change the name of the Liberal Democrats back to the Liberals? Because, I mean, you obviously fear...
Just to cut you off, no.
Yes?
Cut you off, no.
Yes.
I mean, I use the word liberal because I am a liberal.
Yeah.
That is our ideology. Just as people who are Labour will sometimes call themselves socialists, although not too many these days. The Liberal Democrats is our name. I don't want to go through an 18-month constitutional navel-gazing process of changing the party's name, but I am a Liberal. Instead, I want to spend our time concentrating on building up our campaigning infrastructure and fuelled by a bloody-minded desire to come back against all the odds and make sure that Britain's proud Liberal force is at the centre of British politics again, which we have no right to be, but we are absolutely going to be.
But all of this stands or falls by your bloody-mindedness, doesn't it? You've got to convince people that you are so bloody-minded that you're going to put all this toxicity that surrounds the Liberal Democrats away. You're going to put it in the bin, basically.
Well, OK, I mean, very interesting that over the last 6 days, so it's been a devastating time for the Liberal Democrats, but in the last 6 days, we've seen a more than 20% increase in the party's membership. At the height of Cleggmania 5 years ago, our membership increased by 5,000. We thought that was great. It's increased by 11,500 in 6 days because there are thousands and thousands of people out there, and I suspect it's going to be more and more as the days go on, realise that Britain's Liberal force absolutely is under threat, and I am absolutely not going to let that happen. So that I'm putting my name forward because I'm determined that the Liberal Democrats don't just survive, but we thrive. And that does mean building campaigning infrastructure up and down the country.
Yes.
It does mean fighting back. But above all else, campaigning and winning elections, you don't just do it for the sake of it. You do it because of your fuelled by a belief in a better Britain, in a fairer Britain, in a greener Britain, in a Britain where people have the right to be different in themselves and not be subject to lunacy like the abolition of the Human Rights Act. And that is something which is fuelling those people, and those new recruits to the party, well, they're fuelling me. And I'm determined that what we're going to do by inspiration, by hard work, is to come back and do what Paddy Ashdown, David Steele, Joe Grimond did in the past, and take a party that was written off and put us back at the centre of British politics.
Oh, that's Tim Farron. He's a Liberal, and he's up for the fight by the sounds of it. Tim, when are we going to find out who will lead the party?
So my understanding is that the close of nominations is in about 3 weeks' time, 2 or 3 weeks' time, and there will be a result in mid-July.
OK, Tim Farron, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Evan.